Hi, this is Karina on XYZ News, broadcasting to you live from the Los Angeles Zoo that just opened its doors after closing due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Today, we have protesters asking visitors to stay out of the zoo, but why? With us to answer the questions, we have Dr. Jacqueline, Cher, and Julia, who each work for and protect animals in different ways. There are times that we don't understand why organizations do certain things, but today we get those questions answered. First up, we have Cher King. Cher is an animal welfare activist who believes that zoos are necessary and educational. Hi Cher, welcome to XYZ News. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi Karina, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So today we have a total of 3 people that will talk to us about animals and how they're taken care of. Tell me, what is animal welfare?
So animal welfare is the belief that animals should be treated as humanely as possible. It is a movement that we believe in minimizing and reducing the amount of animals used for research. We believe that humans have dominion, power, if you will, over these animals. With that being said, it is our responsibility as humans to be responsible and really take care of these animals.
One question that came up is, what is your viewpoint on zoos?
I think zoos are really necessary and beneficial. The American Zoo and Aquarium have important roles in preserving the animals and really the animals on this planet.
So tell me, how does this organization preserve animals?
So the American Zoo and Aquarium set up requirements that must be followed by each individual zoo and aquarium, and it's for them to be accredited by the zoo. The AZA, which is the American Zoo and Aquarium, will evaluate each zoo and aquarium. They make sure the zoos and aquarium are following standard animal care, management, and welfare. What that looks like is the living environments for the animals, the health, the nutrition, the enrichment, the everyday enrichment going on, and the animals living in the zoo and aquarium are given the most humane care and treatment.
Does this organization only look at zoos themselves, or do they actually look at the programs that they have in these zoos and aquariums?
That's a great question. So in short, they look at everything. They will evaluate the veterinarian that's on site, their programs that are being offered at both the zoos and the aquariums. They evaluate the conservation and the research being performed at both sites, educational programs, safety policies and procedures, security institution, and finances. They evaluate really everything, and rules and regulations are constantly changing, and zoos and aquariums must keep up in order to stay accredited.
Cher, you mentioned earlier that there are benefits to having zoos. What are these benefits?
Karina, the benefits of having zoos are educating the community on these animals. So zoos are beneficial for conservational purposes. Some animals that live at these zoos are on the threatened and endangered list, which allows these zoos to be able to reproduce and be able to bring in healthy offsprings. The Toronto Zoo, which is in Canada, is the home for many endangered and critical species. So this past October, the Toronto Zoo's critically endangered Sumatran orangutan by the name of Sukali was just announced that she's pregnant. With the palm oil crisis and the loss of habitats, the Sumatran orangutans are under extreme pressure. This pregnancy is an important contribution to not only the Sumatran orangutan species, but to genetically healthy Sumatran orangutans. Accredited zoos are critical to helping the thousands of animals and species that we're constantly losing per year, whether that's due to loss of habitat, deforestation, climate change, mining, wild trafficking of animals. I can really go on and on.
So tell me, how are zoos able to produce genetically healthy orangutans?
So the Association of Zoos and Aquarium have a program called Species Survival Plan. This program, with the Saving Animals from Extinction program, focuses specifically on orangutans, and the Toronto Zoo's conservation breeding programs are helping these wonderful animals to be able to survive, thrive, and reproduce healthy animals. Almost every zoo around the world has at least one endangered or threatened species. The Los Angeles Zoo, for example, has a few themselves. They are home to the Asian elephants, lemurs, bongos, the California condors, among countless other animals. These zoos are trying their best to make sure that these animals are sustained on these planets before it's too late.
Wow, all of these zoo programs are actually helping animals that are in danger. They are also educating the human population to get more information on why these programs exist. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Karina, so much for having me. It was my pleasure.
Protesting on the grounds of the Los Angeles Zoo is animal rights activist Julia Goldberg.
The LA Zoo has got to
Hi,
go!
Julia. Can you please tell us about your organization?
Hi, thank you for asking. We're here to protest against the practices of keeping zoo animals captive.
I see. Can you elaborate a little further on the position about zoos and other purposes?
Of course, as a PETA rights activist, I believe that all animals hold the same rights as humans, so it'd be immoral to use them in any matter, be it for food, clothing, labor, or entertainment. This is why we, as animal rights activists, take a stand against places like zoos, since they profit from keeping animals captive and use them as means for human entertainment at the expense of their health. Guys! Animals commonly experience depression, boredom, stress due to being in a small captive environment that's always exposed to loud groups of people every day. A 2001 study on giraffes and okapis showed that nearly 80% of 257 individuals showed at least one sign of a stereotypical behavior which attributed to a condition known as zoochosis. Such stereotypical behaviors include actions such as pacing or licking non-food objects, which indicate stress. Another issue with keeping animals captive is that they are at the mercy of humans, and such a dependency on people can lead to these animals being harmed. During the pandemic lockdown in 2020, zoos all over the world were no longer getting any revenue from the ticket sales and had trouble providing for the basic needs of animals, such as feeding. The Calgary Zoo in Canada was considering sending their twin pandas back to China because they were unable to have fresh bamboo delivered. Such zoos, such as the Neumünster Zoo in Germany, even had considered more drastic measures of which animals to keep alive and which to slaughter and feed to, had the circumstances become worse. Another issue with having captive wild animals in constant interaction with people is the potential to spread disease. Certain big cats, such as Nadia the Malayan tiger from the Bronx Zoo, have already tested positive for COVID, and just recently, 3 snow leopards from the zoo in Nebraska have passed away due to COVID complications. These animals wouldn't have been at risk of such a disease had they not been held captive in zoos and forced to interact with humans.
Interesting. It's a little confusing because zoos claim to play a large role in this conservation of animals and plants. What do you think about this statement?
It would be wrong of me to say that zoos haven't played any role in conservation of wildlife, plants, and animal species. Certain species such as the California condor, Arabian oryx, and others have been brought back to life from the brink of extinction thanks to the efforts brought upon by their captive breeding programs. However, these species are the few among many that have been positively impacted by captivity in zoos. The vast majority of zoos hold and continue to breed animals that aren't even endangered in the wild. Even within the zoos that primarily house endangered species, the majority of these animals aren't being introduced back into the wild, and they will end up either living the rest of their lives held captive in zoos, or are culled as surplus animals. Hello. An event that brought this situation to light was the euthanization of a healthy 18-month-old giraffe from the Copenhagen Zoo in Germany named Marius. According to the zoo, Marius's genes did not add diversity to the giraffe breeding program, and since they did not have enough space for an extra giraffe, he was culled and then fed to the park's carnivores. Although many zoos keep quiet about this, it's not uncommon to see cases of healthy animals being culled. The spokesman for the European Association of Zoos and Aquaria confirmed that 347 of their zoos kill off about 5 large animals annually.
The Association of Zoos and Aquariums prides itself on upholding the best standards when it comes to these animals and the well-being of them. Would they be considered an exception to the stance of the zoos?
It's great that they're taking a step in the right direction and are prioritizing animal welfare, but it's still not enough. AZA accredited zoos are still zoos, and they continue to make profit for animals' captivity. On top of this, very few zoos are taking these steps to become better. As of September 29, 2021, there are over 5,000 zoos registered under the USDA with a Class C exhibitor's license. A Class C license allows for the public display of animals. Out of all of these zoos, only 241 of them are accredited under the AZA, meaning that the majority of the zoos in the USA are not held to the same standards in providing care for their animals as do these good zoos.
Would it make a difference if we provide more space for these animals and give them a diet that close to that of their habitat?
It's a great step in the right direction, but these animals should not have to live on the compromise, but rather in the best possible habitat, which would be in the wild. On top of that, it'd be financially impossible for all 5,000 plus zoos in this country to be able to afford large enough enclosures to simulate the environments of the animals.
I see. What would be an alternative to replacing these zoos?
Because many captive bred animals are incapable of surviving in the wild, the best place for them to be relocated to would be an animal sanctuary. As a PETA rights activist, we support the Global Federation of Animal Sanctuaries, a nonprofit organization with over 150 locations across 18 countries, including sanctuaries, rescues, and rehabilitation centers for any species of animal. Unlike zoos where animals are cooped up in cages or artificial enclosures, sanctuaries allow for wild animals to live in a natural protected setting for the rest of their lives.
And final question. If we just close all of these zoos and let the animals roam free in their natural habitat, what are the chances of them surviving in their natural environment, and will they adapt?
The truth is, we as activists aren't experts, so we don't know. Odds are some of them may die just as they would have had they been raised in the wild. Their chances would probably adhere to the rules of natural selection.
Thank you so much, Julia, for all that wonderful information you gave us today.
Thank you for having me here. It's always wonderful to spread awareness, and remember, don't cage animals, cage cruelty.
Many people take care of zoos, which includes veterinarians, that help these animals' health. Jacqueline, a veterinarian that works in the Los Angeles Zoo, is with us to talk more about her responsibilities. Welcome, Dr. Jacqueline.
Thank you for having me.
Since there are veterinarians at the zoo, I assume that these animals are being taken care of?
Correct. Zoo veterinarians are animal specialists with advanced training in treatment and care for exotic animals in captivity. We are responsible for tasks such as treating wounds, determining diets, providing enrichment, and so much more. Veterinarians can focus their study around one species, but we are also allowed to specialize in more than one. For example, one veterinarian can practice in reptiles, while the other has studied humans. But no matter our focus of study, we are all there to provide care for wildlife in our facility.
So, Dr. Jacqueline, what is the most common procedure done on these wild animals?
Preventive care is extremely important to us. This includes animal checkups, immunizations, and screenings. The most common procedure is vaccinations. There are two ways to vaccinate exotic species. Most mammals, like gray apes, are trained to receive vaccines without a struggle. They will press their arms to the fence gate and will wait for a signal from the zookeeper once the procedure is completed to move away. If an animal cannot be trained or is too dangerous, it will be ushered into squeeze crates with several openings. The openings allow access to certain body parts for vaccination. Recently, there has been an influx of COVID-19 cases in zoo animals. As a result, we have begun distributing COVID-19 vaccinations to specific animals. The focus of these vaccinations is exotic cats, lions, tigers, snow leopards, and mountain lions. Other wildlife like gorillas, bears, and hyenas have also begun receiving a dose.
Why are accredited zoos better than regular zoos?
Accredited zoos are institutions that have participated in a lengthy evaluation process performed by field experts. Their zoo's entire operation is rated based on the standards of the AZA, the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. If the establishment meets the standards set by the AZA, the zoo has gained its accreditation. Accreditation demonstrates that the zoo is providing the best animal care and welfare possible.
Animal rights representative Julia mentioned to us that sanctuaries are an alternative. What do you think about this?
Well, let's begin by defining what an animal sanctuary is, for those who do not know. An animal sanctuary is a facility that takes in wildlife that can no longer survive in their natural habitat due to injury, disease, abuse, or threat. They are provided a haven until they are healthy enough to return to their home. When it comes to my position, I partially agree with Julia. Although their mission holds compassion, it is a poorly regulated industry. Most sanctuaries lack qualifications. Cases exist where animal sanctuaries accommodate animals who are not labeled as endangered or threatened, but keep them for show. Most sanctuaries rely on volunteers as employees. Volunteers are not qualified to treat or care for exotic animals who are injured and or sick. At an accredited zoo, the medical staff employed to treat the wildlife have been properly trained and are some of the best.
Is it true that these animals suffer from depression? And if so, how can you tell?
Yes, it is possible. There are cases where animals suffer from zoochosis. Zoochosis is defined as psychological distress in zoo animals. We can use hoofstock animals as an example. Many animals found in the hoofstock department are herd animals. If their companion or companions die or are moved, they can become depressed. Our staff can recognize depression within an animal through its behavior. Common indicators are lethargy, lack of appetite, swaying, and excessive pacing back and forth.
What do you do to help these animals?
To support our species, we provide different types of enrichment. Animal enrichment, also known as behavioral enrichment, is the process of providing captive animals with stimuli to encourage natural behaviors and maintain mental health. The different types of enrichment are cognitive, social, food, physical, and sensory. For example, a plush toy and cardboard box helps with sensory enrichment as it excites an animal's touch sensitivity. Cardboard boxes can be built into a playhouse that serves as a physical habitat enrichment. We have a specialized team whose job is to create new toys and activities every day to keep our animals happy. Keeping herd animals together is also considered enrichment.
Are conservation efforts important for zoos?
Of course, zoos support wildlife conservation whether it is in situ or ex situ. In situ means in the original place. Ex situ signifies off-site from the natural location. Zoos help in situ conservation efforts by providing financial assistance, equipment, and staff support. Exotic animals within these programs are located in their natural habitat instead of a zoo. A great example of an ex situ conservation program is the California Condor Recovery Plan, in which the LA Zoo plays a major role.
So I asked Julia the same question, in which what if we close all these zoos and just release the animals in the wild? What are the chances of them surviving, and will they survive?
I think it's highly unlikely that all the animals will survive, especially if they were born in the zoo. We do our best to maintain each species' natural behavior, but survival actions are not needed when in captivity. According to National Geographic, captive-born predators only have a 33% chance of survival if given their freedom. It's important to note that these animals are predators, such as tigers and wolves. If they only have a 33% chance of survival, the chances for other animals to survive are lower. Zoo elephants are fed at certain hours at the same locations around their enclosures, a routine that is easily learned by them. In the wild, elephants have to walk miles to find a source of food and water. If zoo elephants were released, they would most likely starve, as it would become difficult to locate food.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jacqueline, for being with us today.
Thank you.
The Los Angeles Zoo also has a botanical garden. Is this attraction helping the environment at all? And what is its purpose? The purpose of this botanical garden is to educate the public, botanical research, and also the conservation of plants. The garden has plants from all around the world to provide shade and also food for the animals. Scientific research includes in and ex situ of all of their natural habitats. As animals, many plants are endangered, and these gardens also serve as nurseries that cultivate the rare plants. Many plants are hard to grow, and these gardens have plant specialties that help grow and keep these plants healthy for us to enjoy. As a bonus, plants also provide oxygen and help the visitors stay cool and alive. This was Karina from XYZ News reporting to you live from the Los Angeles Zoo. Join us next week on our segment of Botanical Gardens starring Leland Shapiro. Back to you in the studio. I'm out.